The air hung thick with the scent of stale cigarettes and the musty smell of old, worn furniture. 16-year-old Geli Raubal stood at the doorway, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. Across the room, her uncle, Adolf Hitler, sat hunched over a desk, a mountain of papers before him. "Uncle Adolf?" she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. He looked up, surprise momentarily flickering across his face before morphing into a cold calculation. "Geli, it's a surprise to see you." Their relationship, a strange mix of affection and control, had always been a delicate dance. The dependence he fostered in her, the way he used his power as her guardian to limit her options, was a silent knot in her chest. This was his house, his world, and she, his ward, felt more like a captive than a niece. I thought you might need a visitor," she said, her gaze flitting to the clutter on his desk. It was a familiar scene, this whirlwind of papers, evidence of the tireless hours he spent consumed by his dreams of a new Germany. Their eyes met, and a chill ran down her spine. She saw the fire in his eyes, the intensity that had always fascinated and frightened her. It was a fire that seemed to burn brighter with each passing day, fueled by his ambitions, his anger, his relentless pursuit of power. "You know I prefer to work undisturbed," he said, his tone clipped. "But I appreciate the gesture." He gestured to a chair across from him, his gaze unwavering. Geli sat, trying to calm her fluttering nerves. The silence stretched, punctuated only by the scratch of his pen on paper and the occasional cough from the corner of the room where a bodyguard sat, his gaze fixed on them. "You seem distracted," Hitler said, his voice a low growl. "What troubles you?" I've been thinking about Vienna," she said, her voice barely a tremor. "It's so vibrant, full of life. I think I could flourish there, study music." He laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "Vienna? What a foolish notion. You have everything you need here." He gestured around the room. "You have me." His words, laced with possessiveness, felt like a cold hand around her throat. She knew that his love, if it could be called that, was a twisted form of control. He saw her as a possession, an asset to him, a source of comfort and validation. "I'm not a child, Uncle Adolf," she replied, her voice gaining a sliver of defiance. "I have my own dreams. I want to be a musician, not a prisoner." His eyes narrowed, and for a moment she saw the flicker of danger. "You're not a prisoner, Geli. You're my family, and my family needs me." The air thickened with tension. He had a way of twisting her words, turning every inch of her desire into a betrayal. "You need me too, Uncle Adolf," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But sometimes I feel like I'm drowning." He stood abruptly, his gaze intense. "You're not drowning, Geli. You're just learning to swim." She looked at him, her heart a heavy, leaden weight in her chest. She had always been determined to escape the suffocating grip of his control, to find her own path. But as she looked at him, at the fire in his eyes, the hunger for power that consumed him, she felt a chill of fear. She understood, with a heart-wrenching certainty, that he was the one drowning, and that she, despite her yearning for freedom, was trapped in the same whirlpool of his making. A few years later, she would be gone. The details, shrouded in mystery and speculation, would remain a whisper in history, a tragedy, a suicide, a desperate escape from a man who had become a monster, consumed by his own power. But for now, she was still his prisoner, locked in a cage of his own making. And as she looked at him, her heart heavy with a dread she could not shake, she knew that the world would soon be forever changed by the fire that burned in his eyes.